What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. Every once in a while Riot pumps out a change that really looks like a nerf on paper but ends up being a buff to the champion because the change overcompensates for the intended nerf in other areas. We're left with a change that everyone thought would be a nerf but results in an overall buff. It's not a common occurrence, but the idea behind these changes is that they all nerfed the existing playstyle of a champion pretty hard, but made a different playstyle of the champion even better than the existing one was before. As we count down the list, we'll be measuring them by how much everyone thought the change would hurt the champion, and how good the champion became after the change. Let's get started. Number 5 is Kayle on patch 4.2. This change nerfed the AP ratio on her Q, but buffed her heal and removed the mana cost on her ultimate. The utility compensation for the damage nerf proved to be a lot more valuable than it first seemed, as Kayle having a free costing ultimate and improved heal really helped her lane dominance and safety. It reduced her burst damage power quite a bit, but really allowed her to shine through as somewhat of a utility mage. I'll admit that this buff was relatively small, especially compared to the others, and the change was honestly almost borderline neutral, but at the time when the patch notes came out, everyone thought this was going to be a gigantic nerf to Kayle, and thought she had basically been Olafed. This buff was the first case of what became a running joke of Reddit knows balance, where the community totally overblows the change and has a huge uproar saying it's a total over nerf. But in reality, the change was the complete opposite, as Kayle would continue to be a strong champion until she received an actual nerf in later patches. Number 4 is Fizz on patch 5.2. This change completely wrecked the AP ratios on his Q and W, as well as the base damage on his Q, and also caused his Q to be avoidable when you dash out of the range. With the removal of Deathfire Grasp on that patch as well, a core Fizz item, everyone thought the Fishy Assassin was just about washed up. However, the change gave him some % health damage and a 20% damage amplifier on his ultimate, causing AP Fizz to fall out of the meta, but AD Bruiser Fizz to rise up as an extremely powerful option. The Bruiser Force brought to the table a super tanky but still slippery and mobile force of strong mixed damage that became a crazy counterpick to the tank meta and gave us quite a dominant performance after a change of what most thought would completely destroy his kit, since AP Fizz was all that had ever really been seen up until that point, and not many expected the power of AD Fizz. At number 3, it's Kha'Zix on patch 4.3. This change nerfed the damage of his Q by a ton and destroyed the AD ratio on his E, and many thought it was going to be the death of the prominent mid lane assassin. However, by also causing his evolved ultimate to make the stealth last for 1 second longer, Insec popularized a build of what came to be known as reverse tank Kha'Zix. His ultimate at the time gave him a 50% damage reduction, and also at the time had no cooldown between casts. So by evolving his ultimate, you could kite while stealthed and get a 50% damage reduction that would last for 6 seconds, but realistically would end up lasting for more because you would space some time in between the casts, which caused a bruiser build where you kite out your opponents to come out incredibly strong, and he rose up to be the best jungler in the game. The build was super dynamic while still having tons of damage, to where the utility totally wrecked everything and he was nearly unkillable while still having the mobility and the power of a typical assassin. The huge hits to his damage ratios resulted in everyone thinking it was a huge nerf, but after Insect showed us what was possible, he became a total monster and was immediately gutted in the next patch by having the damage reduction on his ultimate removed completely. At number 2, it's Ahri on patch 5.2, the same patch as Fizz actually. In this patch, Ahri had the damage of her burst combo nerfed by about a full 30% or so, and combined with the removal of Deathfire Grasp, everyone thought the kit of this AP assassin was totally gutted and that she would have no chance of succeeding. However, with a few quality of life changes, improvements to the targeting of her W and ultimate, and some movement speed on her Q, the change showed us just how valuable a little bit of utility really is. The small amount of utility she received turned her into a strong, reliable poke and kite mage that could control teamfights, dominate roaming, and have a super safe time in lane. The new playstyle for Ahri proved to be not only easier to play, but much stronger as her win rate skyrocketed to between 57 and 58% on that patch. She became the best champion in the game by far, and was quickly toned down in the following patches. And number 1 is Lucian on patch 4.12. By nerfing his range down to 500, everyone expected this lane dominant AD carry to have his kit just be completely destroyed, as the nerf to his auto attack and Q range seemingly wrecked what made him a strong pick in the first place as a powerful lane bully. But with an insane buff to his E for compensation, Lucian became a teamfight king, and with the cooldown reduction build, he would be able to dash around like mad. With a dash that removed slows costing 0 mana and coming off of cooldown non-stop, we were left with some pretty hilarious moments that gave him an insane amount of mobility to where he would just wreck everyone. You had no chance of chasing him down, and he would still output loads of damage by proccing his passive non-stop. Looking at the clips I'm showing right now, he really was totally ridiculous. People tunneled in on the nerf to his range, saying that it gutted him as an AD carry since range is an important element, but the constant dashing not only made him completely safe in teamfights, but his damage output skyrocketed as he would be proccing his passive non-stop. It only took 2 passive procs to completely reset the cooldown of his dash, one of which would come from the dash itself, so you could rotate your abilities to where you would always have something to proc, and with a bit of cooldown reduction, well, I'm sure you can imagine the possibilities. The combo of everyone thinking it would completely destroy Lucian and the actual insane amount of strength this change gave him makes Lucian on patch 4.12 the biggest buff that was supposed to be a nerf in League of Legends history.
Back of Uber news, halfway on my two shoes, engaging to a game that he sure to lose. Major symptomatic fecal flaws due to twisting, gutter flips and bats and forth, and it's time I know it takes a mighty dose of paper, keep in mind we just skip the ship well far along the way.